All right, guys. Excuse me. You guys seen the title of this video? Children should be seen as a lottery, or should be conceived as a lottery. I think I'll mention it that. I think I'll call it that. So in a book I'm reading, shout out to Gabor Mate. He's a Jewish born. Literally, he was either in the womb or he was just a little baby, and he's a doctor. Used to be a doctor who would birth babies, and he was just a doctor. I guess he bounced around different fields, became a writer, does speeches, etc. in the field of medicine, and he says he was a family physician. So this chapter was pretty much on what choice do I have, childbirth in a medicalized culture. Some things he pointed to. I'm going to get to the children thing, obviously, but I want to get to this because I think it was very important. It ties into it. Kind of advice women should have, and just the medical facts and things that you don't know about until you read this stuff. And really, if you don't have knowledge on other ways people go about things, better ways, better ways to handle situations, you're not really ever gonna, you wouldn't know. You only know what you know. And sometimes just knowing there's another option, another way going about it, can make all the difference in the world. And so this, again, so he's a experienced family physician. He said he attended nearly 1,000 deliveries, baby deliveries. So so the newborn is best handed to the mother for skin-to-skin contact. He's talking about as soon as the baby comes out. All right, so years later, I happened to learn from some midwives who in the dark ages of the 1980s were still working illicitly here in British Columbia. So midwives, long time ago, they used to be the ones, it was their job. They were necessary. They were like religious people. For the most part, they kind of lived as nuns, but their jobs were to be a midwife in the little town. So whenever a woman was about to give birth, they went to go deliver the baby. It wasn't a doctor, it was a midwife. And as I was reading this, I had another idea that I don't think men should be in charge of women giving a baby. I don't think they should be the one there. I think it should be women. You go to these tribes and stuff, it's usually the women of the tribe, the elders, the women of the tribe. And I'll speak about things that stood out. So anyway, there was an organic, so this is in quotes, right? There was an organic process trying to happen, they kindly explained, which allowed a child to be born without my surgical intervention. Women can, it turns out, deliver babies without their feet in stirrups and even without reclining on a narrow metal contraption. There's another funny quote. Try taking a shit while lying down and your legs in the air, a midwife suggested when I questioned her wisdom. The newborn is best handed to the mother for skin-to-skin contact, rather than being poked and prodded under bright lights and having plastic suction tubes shoved in its mouth. Nor does the cord have to be cut immediately. It can be allowed to complete its pulsations, delivering more oxygen, carrying red blood cells to the infant. It's almost as if nature knows what it is doing. So another insight into the way remember, this Western modern world is not the whole world. So this tribe called the Hmong women were used to being held from behind by their husbands, who massaged their bellies with saliva and hummed loudly just before the baby emerged. There were Asian women. These Asian women stubbornly resisted some of our best practices in favor of their own ways, including squatting during delivery and refusing permission for episiotomy incisions to enlarge the vaginal opening. So these people didn't want this new medicine. Like, no, I don't need you to cut it open so you can make my vagina larger to make it easier. Again, the same Asian women, the Hmong women, were used to being held from behind by their husbands, who massaged their bellies with saliva and hummed loudly. So again, he's not a crazy guy. He says the advent of modern obstetrician, the ones that the process of bearing a child or delivering a child, it has brought much to be grateful for, sparing many women and infants from avoidable suffering, illness, and death. The problem, though, along with its triumphs and in line with the mechanistic approach of Western medicine in general, obstetrical practice ignores the genuine and natural needs of mothers and babies. It often runs roughshod over them. It disrupts physiological, hormonal, and psychological processes that have evolved in our species over millions of years to ensure the necessary bonding of mother and baby and healthy development of our young. We have to deindustrialize childbirth to stop disturbing the first contact between mother and baby. Imagine the mother gorilla giving birth and you try to pick up her newborn baby, and then you will understand what a maternal protective aggressive instinct is. In our civilization, we have suppressed that instinct for a long time. And then right here, another thing, a rising rate of cesarean section. It is a life-saving intervention when needed, but a potentially noxious interference when not. So about 10 to 15% of deliveries ought to end with C-sections to ensure healthy outcomes. But here in home province, so this author's from Canada, he says, now that statistic approaches 40% of these pregnancies are at 40% C-section. Nearly 50% of births are going to C-section. So gynecologists significant concern that cesarean delivery is overused. And also that medicine should be nature's attendant, not its ruler. So nature should come. Medicine should be there as a support. No. Medicine should be behind nature. Nature should always be in front. It says to rediscover midwifery is the same as giving back childbirth to women. Imagine the future if surgical teams were at the service of the midwives and the women instead of controlling them. Imagine the future if surgical teams were at the service of the midwives and the women who are giving birth instead of controlling them. Medicine should be nature's attendant, not its ruler. And another issue about these women don't feel they have autonomy. Again, they're blaming it on men. They're saying men are the one trying to change all this. Like, why are men always trying to probe and pry and be in control, right? And I agree, and as men, we should fucking think about this shit. Birthing practices express the hidden or overt values of a culture in terms of who wields power and how genuine control people are able to exercise over their bodies. Modern research finds that maternity care interventions may disturb hormonal processes, reduce their benefits, and create new challenges. So technology is superior to the body in that women's bodies are intrinsically bound to fail. So that's how we approach it in that manner. So this person said, doctors are the agents of our society's expectations that we imprint on mothers when they are very open and vulnerable. That technology is superior to the body and that women's bodies are intrinsically bound to fail. It really is obvious that the culture wants to impress upon women this view of their bodies as inherently defective and needing high-level technological care. And that will carry on into how she brings up the child to be in accord with demands of the culture. And again, he brings up systemic sexism. I don't like the way they perceive men. It just adds to the feminism and men ain't shit. I don't like that. There is a broader cause of unnecessary medical interference, one foundational to the Western medical view, a distrust of natural processes and fear of what may or will go wrong. So the paradigm that dominates medical training sees birth as nothing more than an accident waiting to happen. It says another problem was that nothing in my training encouraged me to align with nature. It was left to my patients and my midwife colleagues to teach birth to me as something more than a mechanical procedure of extracting a baby from the mother's body. something with ingrained evolutionary derived purposes, both physiological and emotional. Like, relax. Like, everything's gonna be okay. You know, not like robots should be here to help us. Robots shouldn't be here to take us over and keep us in line. It's kind of like how they're saying like these medical advances and these technological advancements aren't supposed to be in control. They're supposed to be there to support us as tools. Like a gun is only bad once it's in the hands of a bad person want to do something bad with it. So I tried to conceive that child. Okay, this is another story. So Sherry Dolman, a California woman I come to know, had to wage an intense and protracted struggle for autonomy around her pregnancies. Despite a triumphant ending, her tale is a medical horror story. It really is. Watch. A woman from California named Sherry Dolman. I tried to conceive that child for 3 years, she said. But when I became pregnant, I was no longer able to make decisions for my child or for myself. I will shake that for the rest of my life, or I will never shake that for the rest of my life. Dolman was coerced into a cesarean section she did not want, as she subsequently proved never needed. My doctor did not respect my decisions, she said, and I don't think he respected me as an autonomous human being. Again, I don't think men should be fucking involved with this shit. I believe he thought he knew better than me. I can't think of one single instance where a man is told what he can and can't do with his body, but women are told this every day. Again, that fucking idea just supports their fucking claim that we're just tyrants. At the age of 34, Dolman was already the mother of a 17-year-old son born when she herself was a scared teenager, obviously, because her labor had progressed slowly, like owing to her stressed state of mind. So her first birth, and trust me, you ask any woman who's had a mother, has kids, or even she's had kids, they'll tell you, once you have a C-section, you got to have it every time. So they said. So this woman, Mrs. Dolman, she had her first child, and she had a C-section. She was still young. So she was intent on a vaginal birth for her second child. After 3 years of trying, she and her partner got pregnant with a daughter. From the first moment, I vowed that I would not have a cesarean section this time around. She said, I would deliver my daughter the way that nature intended me to. I would trust my body. I would get the proper support I needed to do this. So she did her thing, interviewing doctors. They all said, once a cesarean, always a cesarean. They weren't even willing to speak with me about it. I'll take you as a patient, they told me, but we're going to be scheduling your cesarean. Medically speaking, the doctors were completely off base. By the time her daughter's conception, the safety of vaginal birth after cesarean section had been long documented, with the supposed risk, the uterus tearing under the pressure of labor contractions, shown to be negligible, posing no impediment to an unmedicated delivery. Indeed, a high-risk perinatal specialist who had evaluated Dolman's uterus with a detailed scan affirmed that her chance of such a mishap was no greater than if she had never been pregnant. In a sign of how deep the indoctrination runs, the obstetrician still balked at the vaginal option. The one doctor who had finally agreed to support Dolman's preference for natural labor got cold feet at the last moment. So this gets even more like annoying. It's more annoying. Following a routine fetal monitoring session, which showed no abnormality, Dolman was physically barred from leaving the hospital, threatened with arrest, and browbeaten into accepting the surgical delivery of her daughter, and browbeaten into accepting the surgical delivery. So she was forced into getting a C-section. After this harrowing experience, she suffered what she calls a version of PTSD. I was unable to function in my life. I felt like a failure as a mother, unable to comfort or touch my daughter in her first moments of life. I felt like I had nothing to do with her even being here. I felt disconnected from her because she felt like she wasn't even the one giving the birth. She felt she had nothing to do with her even being here. I felt disconnected from her. I'm reading this again. It's incredible. She cried if she needed me, but I didn't feel that I was enough. Throughout the first year of her life, I cried myself to sleep every night. Under the care of a midwife, she succeeded in a joyful vaginal birth at the completion of her third pregnancy. Though she described it very painful, it's still among the most amazing and exhilarating experiences of her life, as is the case for many women. No matter how painful it got, I had support and I was in control of my own body. That was very empowering to me, no matter what came my way, being in charge of my own body when it came down to it. 10 years later, the telling of it still brought tears to her eyes, tears of joy, she quickly assured me. Again, there's another story too where a woman actually had to get a C-section or even an epidural, which is like a numbing shot in your back. Although she didn't want it, she needed it. It was said that she needed it, and so. But the fact that she wasn't, like the doctors and the nurses were talking to her, being kind to her, letting her in on all the information, giving her a sense of autonomy, giving her a sense of control of her own baby and her own body. Again, one core aspect, the mother felt herself to be in charge, safety and support, and advice. The women who report the most positive birth experiences are those who feel they understood all the decisions made and had a say in the decision-making process. To learn about the physiology of childbearing is to marvel at the innate wisdom of nature and its highest evolutionary achievement, the human body. Mammalian labor is more than a process of expelling an infant from a womb. It is a preparation for life. Labor, as nature designed, it promotes the release of hormones such as estrogen, oxytocin, and prolactin that activate a host of neural systems governing the emotions and behaviors. Warmth, nurturing, bonding, protection, and so on. Birth prepares the template for the mother-infant relationship. And another crazy story about this nurse at Cedars-Sinai in New York. This woman that they're like, no, your body, sorry, read it a little bit. A 37-year-old Courtney was expecting an uneventful delivery. They said her labor would be induced at 39 weeks because of her age, right? Because she was 37. So these doctors were like, wow, they were renowned. Like, right, it says right here, prominent and well-regarded obstetricians. So it's just like, oh man, so much respect. We respect them. But then because she was 37, they called her and said, you know what, at 39, we're gonna induce your labor. Right? We're gonna kickstart it ourselves. We're gonna make it happen. It's the office protocol here, the doctor said, for anyone older than 35. And she said, well, she knew my age from the beginning. That she was shocked, that she hung up the phone. I barely said a word. I had to have a glass of wine. I was so upset. I didn't go to sleep all night. I went downhill. The sudden disappearance of flexibility and the imposition of a tyrannical dictate. It was not the kind of care I expected. I'm not used to being bullied by doctors or talked down to. And then funny, the tone became so toxic. And then the doctor kept saying, the baby is huge. He's going to be huge. Wait, I heard that growth scans are notoriously bad at predicting weight. She tells the doctor, and the doctor responds, not at Sinai. He's going to be 9 pounds at least. And the baby actually was born under 8 pounds. So this woman named Courtney, she actually wanted to look for a new physician, but it was too late in the pregnancy, and she was still in awe of the specialist's credentials. By week 38, she was saying every week, this is really not looking good for vaginal. It's really not. I don't know what to tell you. So the doctor's saying this, like, I don't know, like vaginal meaning natural. That's what they call a vaginal birth, a natural birth. And then Courtney kept saying, I really don't want a C-section. And this was the same dynamic week after week. She was in a terrible state of mind for the last 3 or 4 weeks of pregnancy, sobbing, nervous breakdown. It's just bad for the kid. Again, it's that whole thing, like the whole fucking thing about the transgender children taking the power away from the parents just because the kid wants to fit in with their group, and then you give power to these fucking teachers who are lazy as fuck, don't even really give a fuck about the kids until they get some sense of power. Then they want to act like, oh, I care. You have fucking power once you get the job, dumbass. Okay, so then and it's horrible scene. We're in this waiting room for 3 hours. A million different things going on. I kept saying to my partner, why the fuck am I here? We are totally within our rights to go back to Brooklyn and go into labor naturally. Feeling disempowered, having her intuition invalidated at this most vulnerable time of her life, being intimidated by a highly extolled medical specialist, and having been raised in a culture where expert authority trumps one's own, Courtney lacked the wherewithal to assert herself. She finally acceded to the induction, and after 15 hours of fruitless labor, the inevitable surgery. She said she was so weak. She says they start the surgery and it takes forever. And then the doctor says to her, oh, I didn't realize your abdominal muscles were this strong. Like, oh, we didn't really need to do this. They were because she said she did Pilates for 20 years. So this is Courtney saying, well, they were because I've done Pilates for 20 years. I'm thinking, why don't you realize it? You've been examining me regularly for 9 months and anticipating the surgery for weeks. And the following morning she said to me, can you even make this up? I'm going to call the Mount Sinai scanning department and complain about how inaccurate your growth scans were. All that week in the hospital, I would just lie awake at night sobbing at how violated I was. This author asked Courtney whether she had thought of working with a midwife. I'm not that left wing, she said. I'm not that far out. I completely bought into the system. It's crazy, huh? Crazy. That's fucking crazy. And then some other scandalous shit that there was some videos online about some nurses like talking shit about an indigenous woman in labor, saying nurses were heard calling her stupid, saying that she's only good for sex and would be better off dead. That's pretty fucking crazy, actually. That's pretty fucking wild. I'm sure that's like an outlier though. That's not like something that common. I think that's insane. Oh, the ideal birth situation. So this other doctor said, the ideal birth situation is a woman alone in a silent room, lights dimmed, with a midwife calmly sitting with her and knitting. It's kind of funny, knitting. That there's a harmful effect of bright lights, noisy machines, and bustling, hectoring medical personnel on the labor process. We invite birth trauma with the use of still instruments, bright lights, rubber gloves, the smells of antiseptic and anesthetic, loud voices, or the sounds of machinery. A person's body seizes up in the absence of safety and emotional connection. We need to approach someone in labor as a person who is experiencing a sacred life passage. They're not a sick patient, they are a person in labor, which is a very normal thing to be. It's very alarming. Again, the idea I was gonna put children should be seen as a lottery. Well, it's true because you have one kid, you're pretty much banking your kid's gonna turn out to be the one that fucking becomes like Elon Musk or something, right? You're gonna change your family's lineage. But like the Jewish community, just like fucking immigrants still today come in, they have like 5 kids and a little ass like fucking, there's a door right there. You didn't even know when people were living in there. I was doing graffiti in downtown LA. All of a sudden I hear noise in a door, which I thought this was just like some small business that was closed on a Sunday night. I'm doing some art on the wall that already had art on the wall. There's a justification. And all of a sudden they come out. I know they're immigrants. I know they're illegal, but they had a bunch of fucking kids in there in a 1-bedroom. They're getting that. Their kids who are fucking immigrants themselves have a better chance of your kid succeeding. Because they have 5 fucking kids, you only have 1 as an American, and you're fucking, as a man, you don't even have a son, and your lineage is dead. Your lineage is gone. This video is just 2 different things, right? Jewish people have a lot of fucking kids, and hopefully and they teach them finance, and one of them's gonna be a businessman and put all their siblings to work, and it's probably gonna be the youngest one, or one of the young ones, or maybe the middle one. Maybe the older one was like another dad or another mother and had to raise the kids and sacrifice their sort of a well-being. That happens in immigrant families, dude. They're getting ahead of you. You Americans, they're getting ahead of me. I only have 1 child, and I'm not even in her life. Not as much as I would like to be. There's all these fucking barriers. You know why? Because finances as well. But immigrants come here with no expectation. They're not fucking rich. But he's over there working for money under the cash, and his wife's at home. And I guarantee you all that they don't eat out, and they do eat out. It's like a celebration. McDonald's for them is a celebration. We go to McDonald's every fucking day, and they're stacking bread, or if they're not stacking bread, they're just paying their rent, and their kids are gonna go to college. And in these fucking colleges, their kids get free school, they get support. It's fucking weird, bro. And they're getting ahead of you guys, man. They're getting ahead of you. You're getting lapped. I'm getting lapped. They come in here and they're having babies. All day, baby. Anchor babies getting born right now, this fucking second. So it's like, want to argue about birth, it's too mechanical. Yeah, that's fucked up. those are two different things. But then they don't give a fuck. They're utilizing the medical system. Guarantee. And that kid's gonna go to school, and they're getting fucking positions in the neighborhood, running for government. I'm getting fucking lapped, homie.